Above only and not beneath. There's a verse from the Bible, Deuteronomy 28:13. It says, "Thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath." How many of you can relate to that feeling of being overwhelmed in life? And what about that feeling of drowning? Have you ever been in that scenario where you have a ton of things that are required of you that you must get done, and then suddenly somebody else over here that's supposed to be doing their thing is not there, and now you have to do their thing too, and you're thinking, how am I ever going to survive this event? And then God's word spoke to me with power, "Thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath." And in a moment I saw there was no need to go under, no need to be overwhelmed by my circumstances, no need to trouble because it seemed as if I could not get through. Somehow I could be above only and not beneath. How often I used to say as I went about my kitchen, "I refuse to go down." Do you wonder that Deuteronomy 28:13 is my favorite verse in the Bible, she writes. I see in it the possibility of a life of constant victory. Not up today in the heights and then down in the depths like, oh, I can't survive this tomorrow. It's a position, this is a steady life. It's a life that's been established and it's been settled by grace. Above only is a position of victory too. It is that position which is ours in Christ. When we lived in Alexandria, Egypt, she goes on to write, we used to see fierce squalls of wind and rain, which lashed the sea into a fury. The great buoys in the harbor would be covered with spray and foam, but when the wind died down, again, they were still there. The buoys were above the water. They never went down. Above only, for they had that within them which kept them on the top. And have we not power within us too, which should ensure our triumph? Let us absolutely refuse to come down to live and work on a lower level. And I thought, that is the word for the women this weekend. Above only and not beneath. Today I want to show you how to rise above those moments. What about my own moments of drowning? I suppose there's been many. Obviously my husband's affair and going through that was one of those moments where I felt overwhelmed and where I was drowning. And then there was my son's death, which was another one of those moments that changed my life forever. And it pulls you under. A couple of other women in this room have experienced losing a child. And frankly, it's just wrong, and it's backwards, and it's out of sequence, and that should never be. But sometimes it is. But it's not always those kinds of big things either. I remember a time where I had an admin staff that betrayed me, a bit of a story. And she was somebody that I was trying to teach her to do everything I do, and the next thing you know, she started a side business. I didn't even know about it, and we're at our weekends, and she's like recruiting people to her own business off on the side. I know. Who would do such a thing? But when I found out, because of course we deal with decent people like y'all, one of our clients called and said, something weird happened at your seminar. It didn't exactly seem right to me, but your admin was trying to recruit us. I was so hurt. I just fell off my chair. I could not believe it. So betrayal's not limited to a spouse. There's other kinds of betrayal, and if the person's hurt close to you, it hurts like hell. There was a woman once that she was frustrated with her husband because her husband, when he'd come home from work, he'd say, and she was in that season with lots of little kids, and when he'd say, oh, so what did you do today? We all love that question, yeah. So anyways, she got so frustrated by the question that in one day her husband came home and things were not quite the same or in order as they usually were. He found cereal all over the front yard. Then when he approached the front door, there was a big pool of water seeping out from the living room underneath the door. And a few of the kids were playing naked, and they still had food all over their faces from the lunch, I guess, earlier. And the house looked like hoarders lived there or something. Everything was in there. And he went, what happened? And he said, well, you know that stuff that you were wondering what I do? I just decided not to do it today. When you feel overwhelmed, look for a way to hit the reset button in your life. So how do you hit the reset button? Ideally, you take a weekend off or at least a day off. But if you're not able to do that, you might be down to an hour off, or it might be down to take a deep breath. How did I rise above my husband's affair? Well, first I hit the floor, obviously. Those first 2 weeks are pretty bad. But then you start to get proactive. Like, you can live life two different ways. You can either just live on the defensive and keep waiting for more bad stuff to happen and wonder what you're going to do next, or you can decide to live on the offensive. You get yourself together. You say, what can I do about my situation? One of the big things you can do is don't expect that your life is going to be without problems. Because if you think your life is going to be without problems, you're in trouble, because those problems are going to come. And so I want to share with you this poem that I came across a long time ago. It's kind of really stuck with me. And I think there's a lot of truth in this poem. It says, "The tree that never had to fight for sun and sky and air and light never became a forest king, but lived and died a common thing. The man who never had to toil, who never had to win his share of sun and sky and light and air, never became a manly man, but lived and died as he began. Good timber does not grow at ease. The stronger wind, the tougher trees. The farther sky, the greater length, by sun and cold, by rain and snow, in tree or man, good timber grows." Easy lives don't make for strong people, y'all. You know what? Words are powerful. Words have within them the power of life and death sometimes. Sometimes you need to find some words that talk to you. And I know I'm leaning a little bit faith-oriented. I hope I'm not offending anyone today. But even if they're not words that are from a faith perspective, you've got to get yourself some words that you can cling to that can make a difference for you. You know, one of the words that I cling to in that moment is Psalm 37:4, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will grant you the desires of your heart." And then the next thing I did in my husband's affair is I made a statement of faith. And again, if you're not a person of faith, you can still write something. You know what I did? I wrote my own ending in a journal. I recommend you write your own ending. It doesn't mean it will turn out exactly that way. It's a way of looking up. It's a way of looking beyond. And so this is what I wrote. I took these words exactly from my journal back in within 1 week of discovering my husband's affair. I wrote this down. "This is going to be the story of how our marriage went through death and was restored. I make this statement by faith at a time when it seems like it's over, but it ain't over until it's over." That's what I wrote. And then ask for help. This is what often happens to me. It will usually happen on a Monday. I'll have a regroup moment. I'll probably do this the Monday I get, after I leave here, I'm going to take care of my mom in Denmark for 2 weeks, and then I'm going to come home and I'll probably have this day. I'll make a list of all the stuff that I have to do that's now behind because I've been away for basically 3 weeks, and I will think to myself, I must do this today. And I've made these lists often, so I can already tell you what happens. I usually get them done in 30 days, about a month it takes me to do. And you know what? My life goes on just fine. Apparently, I don't have to get it all done exactly on that day. I just have to figure out my values and get them done in a decent order. Another thing to pay attention to is your physiology. I just need to tell y'all that you are not Superwoman, okay? So that means you have to get enough sleep. I remember when my daughter was 16, the feisty older daughter named Danielle, she came to me, she was very excited one day. She goes, "Mom, I figured out how I'm going to get everything done." I said, "Really? I'm just not going to sleep anymore." Good luck with that, honey. Anyways, and you got to exercise, you got to drink enough water, you got to eat nutritious foods, you got to take good supplements, I think. But the point is, we live in this body, and it has limitations, and you got to take care of it. And that will help you to survive overwhelm. If you stop taking care of this, you'll sink, okay? You just have to put one foot up in front of the other. In tough times, All you require of yourself is to live through the next moment. I didn't know what to do, even though I was afraid, but be strong and courageous. That's one of the things, is like, fear is part of this. You're going to be afraid sometimes. Learn to get comfortable with afraid. Be afraid, do what you need to do, even though you're afraid. The more that you do this, the more that you'll get used to just walking through these moments of being afraid. I often tell people, and this is very true, I could pretty much say since, May 15th of the year 2000, which is the day that I found out about Brian's affair, until today, I've been scared to death, and it's been an amazing ride. It's been awesome, right? The next thing on here is consider the timing. There's discernment, knowing the time. Knowing when to be strong and stand your ground, assertively and with confidence, not yelling out of control or with anger. Other times were times to overlook an offense. And sometimes it was just time to regroup and get more wisdom and approach the problem again in a different way later. And so knowing the time, is it time to stand up for yourself? Is it time to overlook something? Is the action you need to take now, or would it maybe be smarter to take that action later? So consider the time. What is it your heart is telling you to do about this, and is this the time? Take action, swift and complete obedience. But you're feeling afraid that actually, I don't care what negative emotion or feeling that you have, but you're feeling inadequate, but you're feeling not good enough, but you're feeling weak, but you're feeling whatever. That's irrelevant. Don't live by your feelings. Victorious women, you don't want your feelings to be the thing that leads your life. You want the facts to be the thing that leads your life. What is true about your situation? One of the biggest challenges that we have as human beings is to rise above our emotions, okay? And a lot of the things, like Brian and I, the big thing we do with couples, helping couples to come back from the brink in their marriages and overcome marriage problems, the stuff we teach is actually very simple. Like, there are simple steps of what to do. The part that makes it not simple is our emotions, and also the person you're married to's emotions. Emotions make us kind of dumb, right? But they're real, and you can't overcome them. Like, I have them too. I get to practice all the stuff that I ever teach anyone else. And any person who is a teacher will tell you that if they have a really important lesson, especially something that improves people's lives, they probably are going to be tested in that lesson before they teach it. Oftentimes right before they teach it. So I feel like this particular lesson that I'm teaching right now, I've been tested many times in, but don't think that like last week got left out, right? I got to practice this stuff. I wrote a little message to my favorite cousin in Denmark, who I've been very close to since the 80s, and we always have the best of visits, but I guess she's gotten caught up in political stuff, and I'm now guilty of having the same citizenship of Donald Trump. And let's not get into it, it doesn't matter, but the point is she sent me a really mean message, and it was very out of character, and it kind of stabbed me in the heart. I took a deep breath. I thought of a bunch of things that seemed very accurate, but probably mean to say back, and realized I probably shouldn't say those things. I didn't respond right away. I gave myself a little time to think about it, and then I remembered one of the lessons that I teach everybody else all the time. Hurt people. So if somebody just hurt you, that means they are hurting. Ah, right, Anne, remember that she's hurting. So then I remember my identity, who I want to be. I want to be a godly woman. I want to be a woman who is known for things like my love, for my joy, for my peace, for my patience, for my gentleness, my kindness, my self-control, and my faith. And so that means I'm kind. Like, anybody can be kind when other people are kind to you. Being kind when somebody is unkind is exactly the test. That shows who you really are. It's not easy to have good character. That's why lots of people don't have it. That's why you need to determine in advance what your character is going to be. Decide. There's a lot of things that need to be decided in advance. This sentence says, decide you will get through this. Like, decide you're not going to be a victim. Decide you're not going to sink. Decide, like, this hurts. You can say to yourself, this hurts like hell, but I am going to find a way to get through this. Make a statement of faith. You could be writing your own ending, an affirmation. Faith means that it's the substance of things hoped for but not seen. That's what it is. You don't know for sure that you're going to survive this. It probably isn't going to kill you, but it might feel like it in the moment. But it's believing in something that hasn't happened yet. Decide you will do the right thing because it is the right thing to do. And actually, it's a good idea to decide that you're going to act like that in those moments before those moments happen. That's what helps you. So then all of a sudden I thought with my cousin, I thought, okay, right. That means what I want to do is I want to write something back that is going to encourage her, because she's coming from a place of fear and she's coming from a place of hurt. This is exactly a time when I need to be who I say I am, to be loving. So I wrote a beautiful message. I didn't respond. I didn't try to defend. I didn't try to tell her, like, I don't appreciate after all our years together that just because I live in the same country, you're suddenly going to hate me. Because all of that, where would that have really gone, right? So I just said, our friendship has been so deep. And I just really am sorry that you're hurting like this. I'm sorry to hear you're not getting any sleep at night. And if I could jump through across the world and just make the whole world at peace again and take away all the instability in our world right now so you could get a good night's sleep again, I would do that. But since I don't really have the ability to create world peace and take away all the things that you're upset about, I'm going to say a prayer for you and just hope that you can find some peace somehow through this. I guess it's like Michelle Obama used to say, when they go low, we go high. It's good advice, isn't it? So I went high. And it's like to really live what you believe. Be the solution that you wish somebody else would be for you. But to realize what was really wrong there is emotions, right? She let her emotions drive her. Victorious women don't let their emotions drive you. You still have them. And I put that whole little scenario in a little box over here because I was thinking about all of you and I didn't want to be distracted. But at the same time, every now and then where things are under control and I had a little subconscious mind moment, I accidentally opened the box and thought about it for a little bit. Sometimes we can't help ourselves, but I feel like I've done a good job. And by the way, I had a little conversation with my husband and he gave me some really good advice. He said, stop talking about this. And in those moments, then just like, I hope that you will remember this talk. And the moment you see the buoy, I hope that you will picture an ocean with a storm and the waves going up and down. And that might be how you're feeling. But remind yourself that the buoy is still going to be on the top at the end. And to decide that you're going to grab that buoy, whatever it is, to look up, whether it's asking for help, however you're going to get through it, whether it's those statement of faith that you write for yourself, whatever it is. And it just can be those reminders, like remind yourself, that's right, above only and not beneath, because I am going to be a victorious woman. So I looked at the buoy. I believed in God. I believed in myself. In my inner spirit, I would pray, Lord, show me what's right now. I would say words to myself. Anne, you are a strong, good woman. You will make it through this. And I would hear words like, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I would hear words like honor your husband. Oh, I didn't want to hear those words, but maybe I needed to hear those words anyways. I would hear words like a story sounds right until you hear the other side and the other person sets the record straight. There's always two sides to a story. Just remember that. Never believe one side of a story. I would hear words like, I say to you, whoever is angry with his brother is in danger of the fires of hell. Or words like, dear brothers and sisters, it is best to listen much, speak little, and not become angry, because anger doesn't make you good. And I would decide to be obedient, to be strong, to face what I needed to face, to go back and to continue engaging rationally. And was I scared? Lots of times I was scared. But with some listening and with some patience and with some compassion, we would make it through and we would come back to a place of understanding. And both of us would be smarter and we'd be reconciled. Sometimes after that, I would still be feeling crappy because I just feel hurt by what's happened, because I don't really want to let go, because I don't really want to forgive, because I just want to hang on to this, because I feel an injustice. But what's the cost? Well, the cost is I'm going to have a really bad day for as many days as I choose to hang on to this. The cost is, the big cost, it could cost me my relationship, but it's definitely costing me my joy. And whatever else I have to do on the interim while I'm hanging on to that grudge, it's costing me something. See, those emotions are something you decide to let go of. And you decide to start focusing on something more positive. You decide to start asking yourself, what are the things that I can be grateful for? What are the things that are good in my life? And you start to focus on those things and you let it go. It takes practice. It's almost like building muscles. The more that you do this, the better that you will get at it. Because you'll remember what it feels like when you pushed it away out of your mind. I'm not talking about something that's not dealt with. I went through the whole story. We worked it out. We had the conversations. We reconciled. There was nothing more Brian could do. And then I'm still feeling crappy. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about letting go of the emotions. Because the truth of the matter is we actually get to choose the state of mind that we want to be in. And there you have it. You look up. You decide that you're going to get through this. You ask for help wherever you can ask for help from. Then you take action. But as you take action, you consider the timing. Is this the time for this particular action? Because sometimes you need to confront something, but sometimes the timing isn't right. And at the end, you count the cost. You count the cost both of hanging on, but also the cost of pushing through the fear and doing the thing that you need to do. So today we get to bask in the joy of our theme verse. If you will obey the commandments, if you choose integrity and goodness and do the right thing even when others don't, even when you are tested, even when life treats you unfairly, if you will make this choice right now to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, then this applies to you. Deuteronomy 28:13. And the Lord shall make you the head and not the tail, and you shall only go up and not go down. When you feel like you're drowning, remember that with God on your side, you are actually never drowning. When life hits you with overwhelm, look up. Swim back up to the top. Take a deep breath and grab hold of that life buoy, the one that God throws you. Realize that the weight of the world is not actually resting on your shoulders. But you have within you a supernatural strength, and in these moments you can stop and pray and ask God, what is the most important thing that you want me to do right now? And we can know that that is all that we need to do in that moment. You can make it one moment at a time. Drowning is a mindset. I've actually worked really hard at not saying I'm drowning anymore. And so the drowning mindset is not a good one, and it's one that you do not need to take on. We can be like the disciples in the boat when the big storm hits, Jesus is there and he speaks to the wind and the waves and he says, "Be still." And he will say, "Be still," in our lives too.